crashing under mother cries. Who listen to the fall to the floor?
Hello, welcome back to another pen talk. And yes, we are on our favorite subject, Chinese fountain pens. A viewer recommended that I look at this pen, so I ordered one. Here's the eBay auction that I bid on, and the pen came in less than 2 weeks. Needless to say, when I opened up the pack that it was in, it just came in a cellophane sleeve, nothing else. But whoa. And I think we're going to do whoa double squared. I wanted to show the pen in pieces because I took it apart. I cleaned out the nibbin section. And before we do anything else, let's just look at this converter. It is branded. And it has a screw end, which having a screw-in converter on a Chinese pen is certainly not typical. If you take a look at this cap and barrel, the fact that it doesn't have an arrow clip on it certainly doesn't reduce the fact of what this looks like. And this is just typical LED light, and that acrylic comes through great. Some of the eBay ads call this celluloid, but sniffy sniff, nah, it's not celluloid. But this pen has substantial weight to it. I just was impressed. So we're going to ink this up. I got to figure out an ink to put in it, do some writing with it, and then we'll revisit this pen after I've had a chance to use it for a while. But besides all the piston fillers and everything else, this a pen from construction, materials, weight, finish is just amazing. And one of the first things I do is look at the nib. It's just a good size nib, definitely a number 6. And that tipping material looks nice at the end of that nib. The feed is your classic plastic feed, but it's worked well with other pens that I've had. A very nice designed section here. Substantial weight to it. It's brass with this nice plastic inlay. And the other thing that I find just well done about this pen is that, there's a number marking on this section. That's not typical. It's more indicative of a high quality pen. And I do love that kangaroo logo. And speaking of kangaroo logos, to top of the cap we also have a kangaroo logo. Trying to get that to look good underneath of the LED lights that I have, so hopefully that's coming across. And I think we're going to give the Pelican a run for its money. Coming in, so we want to take a look and see how that brings out the chatoyancy, the variety in this acrylic that this kangaroo is made from. I mean, it's certainly ranks up there amongst any of the other acrylics that I've seen and used. It's called Tiger's Eye or Amber. There's a couple different descriptions of this acrylic in the internet for eBay and for other reviewers. But it's just nice. That's all I can say. And as we have heard, there's a little transparency. You can kind of see that nib moving, and you can see that end piece there. So the first thing you must think about is how does that compare to a modern Parker dual fold. So I just happen to have one here in blue, which is also a very nice acrylic with a lot of chatoyancy to it. Not a lot of color variation, but it is blue. So I would definitely say the Kaigelu is a mimic and not a copy. Similar design elements, but certainly from a dimension-wise not the same. clip is definitely different. You know, the same type of design, but you know, there's, you know, the Conklin Durograph. There's a ton of pens that use this flat top, you know, with a finial and a pseudo blind cap and things like that. So this design is certainly not unique nor owned by Parker. They may have started it with the original dual fold back in the 30s, but since then a number of other pen manufacturers have followed suit and utilized this traditional design. Also, when you look at the nib, you'll see some of the other major differences. I mean, the nib on the Parker is big. It's 18 karat. It's also two-toned, but a more subtle design with just the arrow. You know, two bands here at the bottom of the section. The section's fairly similar between these two, which is what I would expect. And the weight's pretty comparable. We'll do those weights, but you know, it's just something I think we should look at and just dispel some of the rumors of things being copies versus emulating a design. So let's take a look at how much this beast weighs. Comes in a little bit under 47 grams. We'd round it up to 47 grams, which in the scheme of things makes it on the heavy side, but certainly not extremely heavy. But the Parker Dual Fold is only in at a little bit under 29, so that's a substantial difference between the two. I always think it's good to take a look at the cap. Is fairly heavy at a little bit under 16 grams, so that leaves, for those math people, a little bit over 31 grams for the body, which again is not on the light side. Take a close-up look at the business end of these two pens. The Parker's at the bottom and the Kaigelu is at the top. Again, solid brass sections here with the converters that slip in. Obviously, as you saw in the beginning thing, the Kaigelu, which is branded there, is a screw-in converter. And you have 316, the model number there, is at the top of the section. It's a little bit unique there. Yeah, the sections are very similar in size. You know, they get this one band versus two bands at the bottom of the section. And both of these nibs, I think, are attractive in their own way. The Parker is a more simplistic, classic design with that silver arrow inlaid in the gold nib, and that's an 18 karat nib in the Parker, and obviously it's a steel nib in the Kaigelu, but it works well. Poster ink, so this is the one I chose to put into the pen. More based on the name, but Velvet Storm just sounds like an interesting color. And this has some sheen to it, which I was able to pick out. This is a drop of ink that I put on Tomoe River paper. There we go. We can see the sheen there. So you got to catch the light just right. You know, about 12 hours to dry. And that's how I've been getting sheen out of these inks. You can see Soda Pop was even more impressive. And we have Frankly Blue, which also came out nice. And the incredible bleed through on the other side, because you're just putting down a tremendous amount of ink, which takes a while to dry. And that's what we're going to use for our writing sample. I would post, you can post the cap. It sits up very high, it's very heavy as we saw. It certainly throws the balance off. And the pen is more than large enough to use in almost anybody's hand. So let's see how this nib lays down the Velvet Storm ink. The nib is very smooth. It has that feel of quality about it. No problem laying down a substantial amount of ink. As you smear it out, you get a little bit more variation on that Velvet Storm color. It doesn't require any pressure to write. Yeah, you get your usual slight variation between horizontal and vertical. I put more pressure on the vertical strokes, but this is, you know, this nib Yeah, it flexes a little bit, but that's not what it was designed to do. Yeah, you can force this to do things if you want, but what this is good for is just a daily writer and some eye candy to amuse yourself with when you're not writing. So hopefully you've enjoyed this look at a pen. This has been reviewed a couple times by some of our more popular reviewers, so if you want to take a look at their reviews, you can. I think this nib seems to have worked better for me than it did for a lot of other people, but you know, I flush it, I clean it. I didn't do anything to smooth or to tune this nib. This is as received, so this is an example of how that works. So thank you for watching. May you have many great writing experiences. Enjoy ink, pen, and paper. Till later. Bye.